Okay, welcome everybody to the council meeting. The first item on the agenda is going to be apologies for absence.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I have apologies from Councillors Kevin Griffiths, Paxton Hood-Williams and Wendy Lewis.
Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Councillor Robert Smith is likely to be delayed joining the meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, sorry, Mary, I didn't see you.
James McGettrick.
Thank you. Anybody else? No. Okay, the next item is disclosures of personal and prejudicial interest. That's £50 for the mayor's charity, yeah? Okay, disclosures of personal and prejudicial interests. Over to you, please, Luce. Thank you.
Presiding Member, I think I'll do this because I sent the email out to everybody today. Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry, I'm online, Presiding Member. Sorry, it's very confusing. You've got Lucy in the chamber and me online. I sent an email out to all councillors today with regard to potential declarations of interest, and I was drawing members' attention to agenda item number 12, which is review of community town council size policy, as it may affect some members, particularly those who are community town council members in addition to their position as county councillors. Although the report today is only seeking the adoption of the policy, if it is adopted, then there may be an impact in the future for those twin-hatted members. And I've said that that will constitute a personal interest only for those twin-hatted members, as this may affect a number of councillors. Presiding Member, I intend to take a block declaration for agenda item number 12, personal interest only for all those twin-hatted members.
Can I ask all the community councillors if they can declare an interest then, please? Okay. Are they the ones online as well? Yes. Will and Andrew. Kelly, yeah, and Andrew, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Other declarations?
If I could declare a personal interest in item 12 as clerk to a community council.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. No. Okay, the next item is the minutes, and that's to approve and sign the minutes of the previous meeting as a correct record, and they're on pages 1 through to 9. So I'll go through page by page. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9. All in agreement? Thank you. The next item is the written responses to questions asked at the last ordinary council meeting, and that's on pages 10 through to 13. Sorry, is somebody online? No? Okay. Okay, the next is the announcements of the presiding member, and I've got a couple of announcements. The first one is the Green Flag Community Award, and I'm delighted to announce that the Friends of Mayhill Washing Lake and the Community Food Garden have yet again received the Green Flag Community Award. This is the 5th year in a row that they have won it. I'd also like to pay tribute and thank all volunteers involved with the other parks and green smaller community-based gardens and green spaces in Swansea. The work by these volunteers is invaluable to Swansea and to its citizens. Congratulations and well done to all. The next is the amendment or a correction to the council summons, and it's item I is 13 amendments to the council constitution, review of petition scheme. You need to delete paragraph 8.3 of the petition scheme, replace it with 8.3. It'll be if council rejects your petition or you feel that the council has not dealt with your petition properly, then please contact the Democratic Service team at democracy@swansea.gov.uk. Please provide a short explanation of your concerns and on the resolution you are seeking within 10 clear working days of the decision. The Democratic Service team shall forward your concerns to the presiding member, who will consider it in consultation with the monitoring officer and section 151 officer, and their decision will be final. Item 14, councillors' questions. Question 7. We need to delete paragraph 2 of the Leader of the Council's response and replace it with funding opportunities are being explored in conjunction with the Friends of the Slip Bridge in an attempt to restore the important piece of Swansea's heritage. Question 14, you need to delete the sentence that states the attached schedule shows the PWLB rates and loans. That's all my announcements. Thank you. Okay. The next is the announcements of the Leader of the Council. I believe you're online, Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I have a number of announcements for today, and then if possible, I'd like to hand over to Councillor Lewis for some further announcements. The first one, of course, will be of interest to many parents out there who have been concerned about the national announcements on RAC. That's the reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete issue that has hit the headlines recently. I want to pay tribute to the work that our officers have done to quickly bring clarity to the position in Swansea, and I can confirm, as we have done in the press, that we have not found any RAC in any of our public buildings, and I confirm that we've submitted a response to Welsh Government confirming this. As members may know, we carry out Council Building Services team condition surveys every year, especially on our education establishments, and this consists of a site visit by our project surveyors, mechanical and electrical engineers. The survey consists of an inspection into the condition of the fabric of the building, where the walls, roofs, windows, floors are checked along with mechanical and electrical installations. The surveyors are looking for signs of deterioration, water ingress, stress fracture, movement, damp, mould, and any signs of wet or dry rot. In those surveys, we've never come across the installation of the reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete or RAC in any of our education buildings. So just wanted to place again on record our thanks to the officers for the work that they've done, but also that reassurance, which I'm sure will be welcomed by parents across Swansea. Moving on, Chair, just to holiday hunger. Again, I want to pay tribute to the work done by many of the members in the council chamber today, as well as many of our teams who were out during the summer, making sure that we supported families, especially those with children, to enjoy free events across the city. I know members organised hundreds of free events, and those supported by teams from Swansea Council. Councillor Pugh led on a holiday hunger initiative to assist with getting free food out to many families, and these meals were delivered through many of the free events that we were running, and I can confirm that there were over 66,000 meals provided to children across Swansea during the summer period, and that again will have been of help to families struggling with budgets during the summer period. In addition, of course, we continued our free bus offer, and again pay tribute to the work done by Councillor Stevens and the officers there to get that initiative underway again this summer. And we believe that over 230,000 journeys were taken during the summer period. And again, for a family of 4, that would have been a saving of close to £20 per day in terms of funds saved as a result of the free bus offer. And again, we're the only council in Wales to offer free bus services during the holiday period. Now, again, depending on finances, we'll be looking to repeat both the bus offer and the holiday hunger offer during the Christmas period as we seek to continue to support families as best we can during the cost of living crisis. So again, my thanks to everyone involved in those schemes. And finally, presiding member, just an update on Buckingham Group. As you'll know, due to the stressful economic conditions that the UK are facing at the moment, we regrettably learned that Buckingham Group had entered in administration on Monday the 4th of September. Officers acted very quickly to secure the site, and we've worked quickly to protect the council's interests to ensure that we both protect the council and the taxpayer in this situation. Council has been in contact with the administrator this week and we're in discussions with a potential main contractor who can potentially step in and complete the remaining works. Members will know that the works on the arena side and the south side are largely complete. There were some snagging issues to be done. On the north side, obviously, we've been working with Buckingham Group and the contractors to ensure that the steel coating was done to a suitable standard before taking ownership of that building. Again, I want to pay tribute to the work done by the officers to move quickly on this. We believe that we are well provisioned in terms of making sure that we have sufficient financial cover within the arrangements to ensure that the works are completed. Obviously, a number of subcontractors were employed by Buckingham, and many of those subcontractors would be local firms. And again, we'll be working as best we can to ensure that those local subcontractors can take advantage of the packages of work that remain to finish the works in this element of the Buckingham scheme. Obviously, given that we are in the early stages of the administrator's process and that we haven't yet confirmed the details around the main contractor, we're unable to update on timeline at present, but our aim is to ensure that the new contractor finishes those works to the required standard as quickly as possible, and we'll aim to publish a timeline in due course. So thank you, Presiding Member. Those are my updates for today, and I'll hand over to Councillor Lewis now, please.
Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Presiding Member. A few positive announcements from me today. Funding for the University of Bath and Cardiff University's Welsh School of Architecture of £4.6 million has been awarded. They will be working with 4 UK local authorities, 3 in England and 1 in Wales. Swansea is the only Welsh local authority to be successful. The research project is to co-design energy-efficient, low-carbon, retrofitted housing, and 4 homes in Town Hill have been chosen to take part. The project will test innovative prototype bio-based, lower carbon solutions, and data will be captured before and after to evaluate the building's performance and to measure the impact that it has on lowering those council tenants' energy bills. The aim is to create comfortable, livable homes that are resilient to climate change, which can withstand future weather events, and to help develop the knowledge to reshape the design of beyond net zero homes. So a real feather in the cap for us, Presiding Member. And I look forward to giving reports to members if they're interested in terms of further detail on that. Another announcement from me is it was my pleasure to attend Sketty Mosque along with Councillor Alison Pugh last Friday to the last lunch provided by the Summer Lunch Club. It was great to see the efforts from the volunteers and the excitement from the children from all different backgrounds, all making connections and friendships which I'm sure will be long lasting. I also had the pleasure and the privilege of speaking at the Liberian and Congolese rally in Castle Square. And it was great to see so many councillors supporting and speaking at the event, and also great to hear the positivity coming from those groups, many of them asylum seekers and refugees themselves, in terms of the support that they've received, not just from the council, but from organisations across Swansea. And that just is a credit to us and to partners in terms of being a city of sanctuary and how we welcome people to the city who are fleeing atrocities and terrible situations, and long may that continue. And my final announcement today, Presiding Member, I was honoured to attend the Merchant Navy Day on Sunday together with the Lord Mayor and the Veterans Champion, Councillor Wendy Lewis, something which is personal to me with my grandfather having been in the Merchant Navy, and also my great-grandfather being in the Merchant Navy. A very positive event, very well attended, and that concludes my announcements today. Thank you, Presiding Member.
There is one item that wasn't read. Do we need to announce that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Apologies, Councillor Stewart. Apologies,
Okay.
Presiding Member. Yeah, it was on my list to do it. Apologies. Yeah, there are some minor changes to responsibilities in Cabinet. These reflect the changes in terms of the Safer Swansea Partnership, but also responsibility for refugees and asylum seekers. And I'll circulate a list to all members of those minor changes to portfolio responsibilities in due course. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you, Leader. Okay. Okay, any question? No. Okay, we move on to the public questions. Then I believe we've got 3 people wishing to ask questions. And the first one, can I call on Jules Wagstaff, please? You have 10 minutes between the 3 speakers, please, so if you can be precise. Thank you.
Hello, my question is, please give reasons for proposed changes to the petition process, which have made the process more difficult to get a meaningful response. For example, the amendments are as follows. You are asking now from 50 signatories to go to 500 signatories to get a cabinet response. From 500 signatories to 1,000 for a petition committee debate. Therefore, increasing the threshold for response and depriving the public of a full council debate. With a complaints procedure run by officers, not a scrutiny committee. So how can this be justified? What has changed since the last review? It appears the council is concerned with full council debate on petitions in public. And I ask you today, please review these amendments in the interests of local democracy and genuine community engagement, because you need that to work just as much as we need it to work as well. Thank you.
Yeah, could I thank you? Could I thank the for the question? It is really appreciated, and I think it's only right and proper that we do give everything consideration. Can I just give a little bit of background why we are here today? I think it's about the flexibility of having the petition here. The individual petitioners will have their say in a proper manner. When we look at the detail of this, the way that we will set up the petitions committee, the detail will come at a later date, and the flexibilities that was raised within the Constitution Working Group, it needs to have a flexible approach, and that was raised by, quite clearly, I can remember it being said by Councillor Chris Hawley. None of this should be set in tablets of stone. What we want to do is learn from our experiences. I don't think that historically, when I used to be the petitions cabinet member, it was quite easy for me to have them petitions up to 500. I didn't have many, but it gave me the flexibility to look at, have their day in court, talk to me. I would have site visits, engage with them. It was far better than having 70 odd people turn up here in the chamber and address 75 councillors. And I think there are far better ways to do that. So this is about betterment, it's about making the process easier. Them numbers are not set. There will be a flexible approach to it. All I would say is it's about better consultation and hopefully better outcomes. We will review it. We will look at it as we go along. Nothing we do is set forever, and we will learn as we go. And so I still think there is the opportunity to allow people to have their say in a better manner so they feel value. So that's exactly why it's here today, hopefully to get better outcomes for individuals.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. The next one is from Mr. Ben Houghton, please.
Thank you. And basically, you're from Kilvey Hill. Let's have a think about it from community stuff that's come in. But my 4 questions are: given the recent secession of Buckingham contracting, a firm previously favoured for Swansea Council, as brought up earlier, for Swansea Arena car park and other involvement in primarily in the preliminary work on Kilvey Hill. Will Swansea Council ensure the continuity and integrity of the environmental protection plan they developed? This is a valid construction environmental management plan, KEMP, in place that funding is available to address the risk strategy contingencies in the risk strategy contingencies funds? Basically, is there money to make sure this holds together? That's question 2. With the Skyline project, significant finance implication, can the council provide further clarity on the utilisation of nominal 430,000 allocated to land assembly, site investigation works, and in 2022 to 2023, specifically broken down on funds already spent in relation to Buckingham contracting by the council, land acquisition cost, and first registration applications for the land on behalf of Skyline using squatters' rights? Question 3. In light of the articles from ODT, the New Zealand paper, which I've provided links to in the questions, and Stuff, another New Zealand paper, which I've provided links to, which highlights Skyline's financial decisions and escalating project costs in Queenstown. So basically, they put in a bid about 35 million, went to 90 million. How does the council ensure the Skyline project in Swansea remains financially viable and transparent to the public? The articles mention Skyline's decisions not to return a wage subsidy and the rocketing costs of Queenstown's gondola redevelopment, and their measures in place to prevent similar financial challenges as seen in Queenstown. Furthermore, considering the Welsh Government integrated impact assessment mentioned in the document, is there a mechanism in place to access whether partners like Skyline align in Swansea Council and the Welsh Government Net Zero pledge? Could the council also outline ongoing ecological assessment expenses and the mitigation measures to support community well-being, especially considering the potential disruptions during the 18th month closure period? So, like, obviously the Glades and all those areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Francis Davies, you've got 3 minutes to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the questions, Mr. Houghton. The first question, given the recent cessation of the Buckingham contract, etc., that question, the answer for that is the detail will be considered through the planning application process and actioned accordingly. On question 2, which leads with the Skylands project significant financial implications, can the council provide further clarity on the utilisation of the notional £430,000 allocated for land assembly and site investigation, etc.? This is a working budget allocated to the scheme, and to date, approximately £120,000 has been spent on surveys and consultant fees. You mentioned Buckingham contracting. Swansea Council has not used Buckingham contracting to the best of my knowledge and belief, but whether Skyline have, obviously that is a matter for them. On question 3, where you give us the links to the ODT in New Zealand and the stuff in New Zealand, which highlights Skyline's financial decision and escalating project cost in Queenstown. How does the council ensure that the Skyline project in Swansea remains financially viable and transparent to the public? The article mentions Skyline's decision not to return a wage subsidy and the skyrocketing costs of the Queenstown gondola redevelopment. Well, the council will use due diligence, and as it has been and will continue to be undertaken together with provisions within the lease. We can't comment on any wage subsidy in New Zealand. That obviously is a matter for the New Zealand authorities. And the question 4, where you put, furthermore, considering the Welsh Government integrated impact assessment mentioned in the document, is there mechanism to place to assess whether partners like Skyline Enterprises align with Swansea Council and the Welsh Government's net zero pledge? Could the council also outline the ongoing ecological assessment expenses and any mitigation measures to support community well-being, especially considering potential disruptions during the 18-month closure and beyond. And the answer to that, this will be considered as part on a full report that will come to the planning application during that process. Thank you.
Bang on time, Councillor Bransdale. The 10 minutes is up, but I will allow, it's only one more question. I will allow Councillor Tries to say it, please. So if you can be brief, thank you. Sorry, Councillor, I'm giving you promotion. Sorry.
Thank you. My question is concerning the petitions policy. I've recently today been notified by the One Ireland Playing Field Action Group they will not be participating in tonight's proceedings on the advice of their solicitor because negotiations between them and the council are at a delicate position. So I'm hoping either tonight or in the next few weeks, a speedy conclusion can be made to this dispute to the satisfaction of this group. Most councillors are aware that this group was not fairly treated 7 months ago when Councillor Robert Francis Davis failed to address their concerns over the massive fence being erected around the whole of their park to prevent local people from using it. And then the whole Labour group.
Councillor Tries, can I interrupt you, please? That's not a question. You're making a statement. Thank you very much. Is there a question?
Well, the question is their experience of the petitions programme was not satisfactory at all, and therefore they and I feel that the present amendments to the petitions for the petitions policy are totally inadequate and would not address
It's
the
still
problems that they
not a
experience.
question, Mr. Tries, so I'm going to rule it out. Okay, thank you very much.
Can I just give you the question then, please? There
A
is
chance to
there's
answer
the
questions.
question.
Giving you extra
There's
time.
the question. There is a question. The
Excuse
question
me,
is-
we had 10 minutes for questions. I allowed you extra, then you didn't ask the question. Okay, I'm moving on. Okay, to the next item. Thank you very much.
Did I have 3 minutes? Did I have 3 minutes?
We had 10 minutes for question time for the 3 people that spoke. We were over time. I allowed you to come
Yeah,
in.
I
You
appreciate
didn't ask
time
a
to
question,
do-
okay?
Can I just make
Can I take
one
advice
point then?
from? Yeah. Am I out of order? Am I good?
You're way out of time.
Yeah, we're aware of it. We are way over time. Okay, thank you
I'll
very
just
much.
make the one point then. The point is that
Wait. Okay, I'm moving on to the next item, please. The next item is Swansea's Violence Against Women, Domestic Abuse and Sexual Violence Strategy 23 to 26.
Councillor Lewis.
Councillor Lewis. Sorry.
Presiding member, can I come in? Yeah.
Hang on a second, Alison. I got Councillor Jones to speak.
I want to declare an interest because I declared an interest with the Wanalaeth project.
Okay. Councillor Pugh, did you want to come in?
Yeah, okay. I'm
Hang on,
yes.
Alison. I got it. Alison, hang on a second. I got Councillor Hopkins wishing to respond. Thank you.
okay.
Could I just say, obviously, because the question didn't get answered here today, and I take the presiding member's decision to move on, could I just give a commitment that I will give that written response to Mr. John Childs after this thing. So I will send that written response to his original question.
Councillor Hopkins.
the question was at the end.
Okay, well, you should have got to it in the beginning instead of at the end. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Pugh, excuse. Plenty of opportunity to ask the question. Thank you very much. Councillor Pugh, did you wish to speak, please?
I was putting the strategy forward, presiding member. Is it time? Can I do that now? Can I get on
Okay.
there?
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to let me know? Can I start, presiding member?
Councillor Pugh, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Presiding Member. Okay, I'm bringing before you today our new Violence Against Women, Domestic Abuse and Sexual Violence Strategy 2023-2026. I would like to pay credit to Janine Evans, who's our VODA lead, who has only been in post a year and has had to co-produce this strategy. So a mammoth task for a new role. So fair play. As a council, VODA remains a priority and a key priority for the Community Safety Partnership, as well as the Western Bay Safeguarding Boards. We have a duty placed on local authorities and health boards to jointly prepare and publish a local strategy. A national blueprint framework has been developed to support the national strategy, which has created a new shared governance structure, which also includes partnership working with the private and specialist sectors. Our strategy has been co-produced over the last 12 months, as I said, and we want the residents of Swansea to be safe, happy and healthy and live free from violence, exploitation, harassment and abuse in all its forms. We particularly want the voice of the service users to not only be heard, but to be listened to. And our overall objectives are to prevent, protect and to support. In Wales, domestic abuse is estimated to cost £303.5 million a year. This, of course, doesn't account for the human costs in it. 2.4 million adults experience some form of domestic abuse in 1 year. 1.7 million of them are women. 2 women a week are murdered by their partner or former partner. And in England and Wales, 85,000 women and 12,000 men are raped each year. Of course, whilst women and girls are disproportionately affected, our aim is to deliver a coordinated approach to prevention, protecting and supporting all groups and individuals affected by these forms of abuse. This strategy is built on our achievements and progress to date, and we want to ensure that all victims have equal access to appropriate services. We have certainly come a long way in the last couple of years. We know the 2 programmes now for perpetrators, Equilibrium and Drive, and I was only talking to the lead on Drive the other day of the project, and he was saying how tightly controlled it is. Drive is our prison-based programme for perpetrators, and how tight a control they are on people leaving prison, and the first sign of relapse and they are recalled. There's no messing about. They are really well supervised. So it's really good to hear that. And it's great that we have Spectrum in our schools to help our young people develop healthy relationships and raise awareness of domestic abuse. We have to get in when they're young for them to know what's acceptable and what's not. We have expanded our IDVA service. We have independent domestic violence advisors. And our referrals are at a really high level now, and these are vital to supporting people. We have one embedded in A&E and the Health Board. We have one embedded in the courts. They are fabulous support. There's a number of partner organisations who are at the coalface. Of course, the obvious ones, Women's Aid, BOWSO. We have Compass, which is a resilience programme for male victims, plus our toolkits. Myriad's another example for victim survivors with the LGBTQ+ community. And we intend to continue to build these partnerships and collaborate to ensure that all the work is recognised as everyone's business. So I'm really grateful to bring this forward today and hope that everybody accepts there is an easy read, there is a Welsh read. I think that it will have all been, should have all been shared with everybody. So hopefully this will be happy to be passed today. Thank you.
Going to call on Louise. Councillor Gilbert, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I'm really pleased to second this report. I'd like to say a huge thank you to Councillor Alison Pugh for taking the baton of violence against women, domestic abuse and sexual violence from me last year and taking the lead on developing this comprehensive and really robust strategy with our officers from Child and Family Services and across the council and myriad partner agencies. I'd like to put on record my thanks to them for their work on this strategy and indeed their work day in, day out towards our vision that all citizens in Swansea are safe, happy and healthy and live fear-free from violence, exploitation, harassment and abuse in all forms. The statistics that inform and necessitate this strategy are stark. Councillor Pugh has already noted these, but I think they're worth repeating. Estimated 2.4 million adults experience some form of domestic abuse annually. 2 women a week are murdered by their current or former partner. It will affect 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men in their lifetime. And that's people directly affected without considering the effect for those around them, particularly their children. We know exposure to domestic abuse is a damaging, adverse childhood experience causing deep trauma with lifelong effects. In spite of the work that's gone on to eradicate Vowder SV, we're not seeing a reduction. Far from it, it's on the increase. I've no doubt the last 13 years of austerity from the Westminster government affecting public services has played a part. And now with the current cost of living crisis, we're seeing more reports again. Moreover, there's changes to the types of abuse evident, with technology and the online sphere providing more opportunities for abusers to target and control their victims and spread hateful, misogynistic narratives. I'm really pleased to say the Welsh Government blueprint and this, our own strategy, what it does is have a multifaceted approach. The importance of listening to survivors' voices and lived experience is embedded throughout it. It not only focuses on providing vital, high-quality support for all victims and survivors and recognises intersectionality and the need for specialist support for people from different backgrounds, Black, Asian, minority ethnic, LGBTQ+, men, older people. It also has a strong focus on holding perpetrators to account. But important for me is that it places equal emphasis on early intervention, prevention, and on changing attitudes across society as a whole. Ensuring our schools have age-appropriate conversations with our children about consent and healthy relationships, countering dangerous online content promoting toxic masculinity, encouraging people around us to call out lazy and harmful gender stereotypes. These are all important steps on the path to a more equal society in future, and one in which violence against women, domestic abuse and sexual violence is a thing of the past.
Councillor Peter Black.
Yeah, thank you, presiding member. Very much support this strategy. It's a really important strategy and one which hopefully will be far-reaching. Just a couple of points I want to make. The cabinet members just referred to objective 2 and the importance of education in schools. This is a particular bone of contention when the legislation went through the Welsh, what was then the Welsh Assembly. As one of my last acts as an Assembly member, I think, as a spokesperson there. But certainly, I think it's important that schools do take this seriously, particularly in terms of relationship education, and that we provide materials for them to be able to do that, so that people understand what a healthy relationship is and to avoid those unhealthy relationships which lead to this sort of abuse which has been referred to in the strategy. The other point I wanted to make was the really weak link in this is the justice system, in my view. You just have to look at the statistics. In 2022, sexual offences and rape in the South Wales police area, only 10% of them actually led to charges. And overall, in terms of other serious sexual offences and rape, just about 11% of those led to charges. And that was an increase of 4% on the previous year. Obviously, the pandemic had an impact on that, but certainly where people are going to the police with complaints of abuse or sexual offences, for many reasons, these complaints are not actually leading to charges and possible prosecutions. And I think that's important, that where you actually do have perpetrators, that that police and the criminal justice system do improve on that. Because if they don't improve that, then people will stop coming forward and talking about the abuse they've received. So, I mean, I raise this every time the police come to the scrutiny committee, but I think it's important that as a council, in the forums that we're members of, that we should also keep pushing this, that we do need to improve the rate of response on complaints, make sure those charges take place, and we move up from that 10%, which was in 2022. And certainly, I think doubling it is not really enough, but we need to do a lot more in that regard. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Mary Jones.
Thank you. Yes, I endorse this strategy as well. And yes, I'm aware of the work that goes on both in social services and schools. And yes, we can always perhaps do more trying to identify. But my question is a little more general. We've identified the strategy, but what I couldn't find in there, and I might have missed it because, as you know, there was a lot of pages, is how people actually access the service if they need it. Now, there used to be a lot of things about on back of toilet, women's toilet doors, do this, do that, but it's not generally known anymore. It's no good saying to somebody that you know who's already in the system, oh, well, you can press, I think it's 5 or whatever it is. But how on earth are we going to capture the people that actually need our help, the police's help, whatever? Because there were various things, especially, I think, coming out of COVID. Yeah, but yeah, what I'm trying to say is, if I was walking down the street and there was 10 other people around me, I don't suppose any of those 10 would know, if they were in that difficult position, how they would actually access a service. I think it was just coming out of COVID when we had a lot of problems, and it was quite well, advertised. Perhaps we need to think of another campaign with our partners to try and get people to understand that there is help in there. Because sometimes young people will not go to staff in schools. They may want to go somewhere else. You know, we used to have Childline. Have we still got, things like that? So I think it's a little bit that is missing. It probably is going on. It's just not evident. Thank you.
Councillor Pugh, do you want to respond?
Yes, yeah, and thanks, Councillor Johnson, and she's not wrong. It is in the strategy, is there and everything, but we do fight a continual battle of. We do a lot of work with the bars and the restaurants and everything in Swansea, so that somebody can go and just give a code word, like I'm hopeless on names, as everybody know. So it could be like ask for Susan. It's something like that. But unfortunately, they have such a turnover of staff because they use so many students, when they have huge volumes, that it's really hard to keep on top of the training. Sorry, because I'm home unwell, I've been dumped with 2 dogs today, so you can hear barking, so I'm very sorry. So you're right, we do go around in phases where we put posters up. We have lots of on the street sort of support now on wardens and people trained, especially when there's alcohol involved. We do a lot in schools. Everybody should be alerted. But you are right, it is a continual program you constantly need, because we know that when we do have a real campaign and it's running, that people see it, hear it, and then it all dips off again. So yeah, it's not missed, Councillor Jones, but it is a constant battle.
Councillor Kirshner.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd like to welcome this report. And we can see the progress that's happened. I was around 20, 30 years ago trying to get into schools, and it was really, really difficult. I appreciate the points Mary's brought up, and certainly Peter, because anybody in this chamber, and remember the statistics are 1 in 4 of women will be affected by domestic abuse. That's some of us in this room, 1 in 6 men. So the problem isn't going away, and it's about the behaviours and the outlook people have. But what I'm thinking is, if children see in domestic abuse and that disrespect and that horrendous behaviour, some will take it on, and we see it in our streets today of aggression from young people towards each other and establishments, etc. I'd like to go back to Peter's point on the law, because some of us, again, will have experienced our close families being sexually abused at very young ages. When they get caught and they go to court. Okay, so this is a step before you, Peter, which isn't working very well. The courts aren't working very well. I will say, in my particular experience, the perpetrator was given 5 years and told when he came out that he would be tagged the rest of his life, etc. Well, none of that's happened, and he was out in 3. So there is something radically wrong with the whole systems of this. These aren't just words we're speaking about. This devastates everybody's lives, from the person it happens to every family member around them, and the hopelessness experience, the flashbacks that people experience through that is going to affect their quality of life and their means for the future. I mean, it's so horrendous, and we don't seem to be touching what really matters here. We're doing all the right things. The strategy is excellent because it's branching out and it's showing us how it's developing and how we're trying to. But I think it's all this unbiased conscious that people hold, this passion they get that they think they are right and they have a right to do everything. Unless we curb those sort of ideas in people's minds, we're going to keep still building this strategy and hoping that we're going to get everybody. But don't forget, majority don't report. They still don't report. And these figures, horrendous as they are, and the cost it all accumulates, are just a fraction of what's really going on. But unless we get this right, our society is heading downhill. We have to be more vigilant, each and every one of us, with our own personal outlook and influencing others as well. So I welcome the report. I champion the workers in all the fields there because they live it day and night. And it's not easy looking at such sad cases all the time. And I think we should give them all a reward because they are brilliant workers. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Smith.
Yes, thank you, Presiding Member. And can I also echo what Councillor Peter Black and others have said about the key role that's going to be played by schools in this? That is when attitudes are being formulated, and it's important that the schools are on board. I noticed what Councillor Kirshner said about her experiences 30 years ago, and I hope that very much of that is a thing of the past. We need the schools involved. The schools need to be supported to deliver this. But I think it's also important to recognise that schools won't deliver this on their own. They are part of the strategy. They won't be able to deliver the whole strategy.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded, so we're going to go to the vote, please, so I can have a show of hands for all those in favour of the report. Anybody against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's moved. Thank you very much. We move on to the next item, and that's the Democratic Service Committee's annual report for 22 to 23. And it's on pages 187 to 196. And can I call on Councillor Linda James, please?
Thank you, Presiding Member. I don't intend to go into a lot of detail, but just pick up a couple of the points. 2022, so many new councillors in this chamber as a result of the election.
So James, can I ask you to pull your mic closer to you because
Okay.
some of the councillors can't hear you.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear now?
True. 2022, so many new councillors as a result of the election, and a lot of council time was spent on the induction programme. So the committee only met twice that year, but in that time the committee reviewed the training provided in the induction programmes, and they made recommendations to council for the next induction programme for use in 2027, which will soon be with us. The committee also carried out a survey of councillor preferences to council meeting times and presented the outcome to council. Another point that they carried out was they considered the draft independent remuneration panel report and provided a draft response for council to send. So I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of the committee to publicly thank the Democratic Services staff for all their help and support over the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor James. Councillor, I need somebody to second it first.
Thank
I'll
you,
call you back.
Presiding Member. Very happy to second the report. I'd like to give my thanks to the chair of the committee, to the committee members, and also add my thanks to the great work that is delivered by the Democratic Services team. It's often overlooked, but it's something which is critically important, and we are supported throughout the year on year, and they work incredibly hard. And there are occasions, Presiding Member, hopefully this isn't one of them, where we've been in the chamber 9 p.m, 10 p.m, and they work way beyond their hours, outside normal working hours, and it's greatly appreciated. So my thanks, and happy to second the report.
Councillor Black.
Yeah, thank you, Presiding Member. This isn't a question, it's more a plug. I've noted the reference to training, and I just wanted to say that the scrutiny team is actually putting on a training for councillors on scrutiny, starting from the 5th of October for the next 4 months. And I just want to encourage as many councillors to sign up as that is possible, because I think it's important that we can all learn from that. I've signed up to every session, so I think it's important that if you can, please sign up to those scrutiny training sessions. Thank you.
There's no vote required in this.
Your plug for his book.
Okay, there's no vote required, it's just for noting. Okay, so we move on to the next item, and that's membership of the Governance and Audit Committee. And can I call on Mr. Evans, please?
Thank you, Presiding Member. You'll remember at the I think it was the last council, I reported on the resignation of Phil Sharman as a lay member of the committee. Since that time, we've looked at the membership of the committee, and we are proposing that we reduce the number to 12 in all. And if you recall, with the legislation, that would mean 8 councillors and 4 lay members. Obviously, we're down to 4 already, so it would mean 2 councillors coming off the committee. It would mean the loss of one Labour group councillor and 1 Uplands group councillor. They've been identified to me if council approve this report.
Miss, somebody to remove the poll, please. Councillor Lewis, yeah.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I'm happy to move the report. I actually endorse the contents of the report. It makes perfect sense. This is an opportunity now that we're down to that number of lay members. We accept that we remove a Labour Party member and an opposition member, but this brings us in line with other local authorities, and 12 seems like a flexible fit for this committee. So very happy to move. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Councillor Hopkins, are you seconding it?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to second this one. It makes total sense.
Been moved and seconded then, so can we go to the vote, please? So all those in favour of the report? Okay. Anybody against? Any abstentions? Mr. Evans, you want to come in?
Just briefly, and for the record then, thank you for supporting that report. It will mean councillors Alan Jeffrey and Kelly Roberts being removed from the committee. I'm only saying because it affects next week's committee. Thank you very much.
Mr. Evans. Okay, the next item is item 12, and that's the review of the community town councils. Oh, I've jumped one, have I? Sorry. Is the extension of the term of office for independent co-opted members for the Standards Committee. And that's Mr. Evans, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. The Standards Committee is made up of 9 in all, 5 of which are statutory lay members. 2 of them have terms of office which come to an end at the end of this month. We're allowed to extend the terms of office once, and I'm proposing, or I'm asking if you'd support, I've lost the names, Michaela Jones and Mike Lewis, not Councillor Mike Lewis, having their terms of office extended until the 30th of September 2027. Neither can have their terms extended beyond that time. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Happy to move the report and support the findings of it. I think Michaela Jones and Mike Lewis have been, during their 6-year term, very well respected and give very good contributions on the committee. So happy to support the extension of their term once more.
Mr. Hopkins.
Happy to second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. So can I have a show of hands in favour of the report, please? Okay, anybody against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's moved. Thank you very much. The next item is item 12, and that's the review of the community town council size policy. And again, I call Mr. Evans, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Council approved some months ago that the that we would commission the Local Democracy and Boundary Commission for Wales to carry out the review on our behalf. It must be carried out every 10 years. As part of that review, this council must adopt a council size policy. This is outlined in paragraph 3 of the report. It's set out there, and helpfully in Appendix A, I've set out the terms of reference of the Boundary Commission in this work, and hopefully Appendix B is also helpful, which shows what the impact of the council size policy will be on those community councils in Swansea, and what they would be with the 5-year projected figures. I must emphasise at this point, this is the start of a consultation process, and the Boundary Commission will do that. In turn, they will make their draft findings for further consultation, and then in turn that will go to Welsh Government for a formal decision. I'll take any questions councillors may have.
Can somebody move the report?
More than happy to. Sorry. Is it? Sorry, I'm more than happy to move the report. I think it's only right and proper that we look at this in depth. But as he was rightly said, this is the start of a process. It's not the end, and we should not preempt any outcomes that should come out of that. But it's only right and proper for sustainability, particularly of community councils, the town council. We need to have this review. It needs to be done, in my opinion, to bring in line with other parts of the country and make it more sustainable going forward. But let's not preempt the outcomes here today. Let's wait for all that work to be done. And I'm sure there'll be many reports to come back.
Mr. Lewis.
Happy to second the report, Presiding Member.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chair. I was wondering whether I was out of practice with my speaker, so I was concerned whether I could get it to work, but I clearly have been successful. Well, I do welcome the report, and I fully agree that, you know, community councils, numbers on community councils have to be looked at from time to time. I have to say what is interesting, though, is that the majority of community councils across Swansea, as it stands at the moment, are down to lose members. And I just pass the comment that that is in contrast to the upper tier of government in Wales, which of course is going to be increasing its numbers. What I'm really interested in, and I'm just seeking a view from Mr. Evans, there is a paragraph on page 209. It's in the review that is presented to us. It's under the heading, what will be considered during this review, and it's the 3rd paragraph down. And this paragraph says, the Commission considered that effective and convenient local government is served by community arrangements which are internally coherent, in the sense that communities have reasonable internal road links and mirror patterns of settlement and ease of communications. So I think we can all agree that that is logical. It then goes on to say, this is intended to ensure that all electors in the community can engage in the affairs of that community and the activities of all parts of it without having to travel through an adjoining community, for example. So in other words, in a community, everything that you would want to access should be available to you easily without having to travel into another community. So yes, you may be guessing where I'm going on this. What I'm just wondering is there likely to be a review of all those that stand for election in community councils? Because at the moment, it appears they can come from anywhere within 3 miles as the crow flies, and even from a different county, even when they don't have work or pay council tax. So is there any likelihood that there is going to be a review anytime soon of who would be eligible to stand for election as a community councillor. This is really what I'm just seeking a general view on. Thank you, Chair.
What do you think? Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
thank you
Evans.
for the question. It's difficult to say whether there's going to be a review or not, and the answer will have to be in different levels. If I touch on the UK government, first of all, they're responsible for members of Parliament and the Police and Crime Commissioner. They have views, and of course, you don't even need to live close to the area to be a member of Parliament. So the 3-mile rule doesn't apply there, because you can live far further away than that. In Wales, we're talking about local government, and we're talking about Senedd, and we're talking about local government. The 3-mile rule, sorry, not the Senedd, the 3-mile rule applies for local government. And there are other qualifications that can allow you to stand. You could be, if you work in the area, would also be a qualification to stand there. That is something the Senedd could look at. I know they've recently undertaken a huge piece of work on legislative changes. The 3-mile rule, I didn't spot that in that. But if you were interested in lobbying them, now would be a good time, because they are looking at that piece of legislation on elections. But it's not a matter for this council, I'm sorry to say.
But I just add, I know exactly why you're asking that question.
As do we all. Okay, thank you. That's been moved and seconded. So again, can I go to the vote, please? All in favour of the report? Any against? And any abstentions? Okay, that's moved. Thank you very much. We move on to the next item then, and that's item 13, and that's the amendments to the council's constitution, the review of the petitions scheme. Can I call on Mr. Evans, please?
Thank you, presiding member. I'd like to start by sharing my screen, because I'm conscious that the amendment you read out earlier was lengthy, and I want people to be clear what the amendment I'm proposing is. That's to paragraph 8.3. It currently refers the complaint, should there be a complaint, to the complaints team of the council, which is not the appropriate place to be questioning a decision of council. So we're putting that in place there. It should be down to the presiding member in consultation with our monitoring officer and the section 151 officer. That is giving the legal and the financial balance to ensure that we're doing things correctly. That's an anomaly in the original scheme, and that's the proposal I put there. So do you want to deal with that element first before I move on to the wider report?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll stop sharing my screen then.
Can I have somebody to second it first? Can I come back to Peter?
Can I formally move the report? And in doing so, obviously, with accepting these amendments, what I would say that this is probably the start of it. The petitions work very, very well in other areas. When you look at the Senate, when you look at Parliament, these petition committees work exceptionally well. It's nothing new to us. Many years ago, I seem to remember in the grey matter somewhere that we have had petition committees. And I think, to me, if we are going down this road, we need to look at an all-party membership, that it should be shared across, I would say, maximum of 7. So it's not overbearing, particularly onto the public that should be presenting these type of things. But it's that flexible approach. And I know that Councillor Chris Hawley, when we went to the Constitution Working Group, it was highlighted there that this must not be set in tablets of stone. There will be opportunities. And what was said earlier about, will people have the opportunity to come to full council? Well, who knows? I think what we need to look at is, will there be an opportunity? If it was the right place to have a full petition, the petitions committee could take the opportunity to say, we will refer it to full council if it's the appropriate place. I doubt it, because from my previous experience, I think it's probably the wrong place to be, and this is why we're here today. It is about that early engagement. It is about this isn't forever. We learn as we go along and make sure that it's the best experience for all, with the best outcomes. They could even have site visits, because it's not too bulky. Let's leave it, let's look at it, learn, and bring a report back on the success and the way it works going forward. Don't get messed up with the numbers, because when you consider Years ago, it was very hard to get 30 signatures. With online petitions today, it's easy to get thousands, to be straight and honest with you. So let's not hang up too much with the figures, that flexible approach to them all. So I'm more than happy to move the report with them amendments and hopefully let's get this up and running as soon as we possibly can.
Lewis.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I'm happy to second the report with the proposed amendment.
Councillor Black.
Thank you, Chair. I very much welcome the development of the petition committee. I was involved when the Senate, what was then Welsh Assembly, set up its petitions committee and the online petition system, which was set up then. I think the important thing about this whole system is that people who bring petitions to the council feel that they're getting a hearing. They can see that there's a resolution to their concerns, and they can see that at least they're going to have their say. And even if they don't get their way, that they can see that they've had a chance to put their point of view across to the cabinet member or to the members, whichever is the appropriate forum. And if that's going to work properly, then I think the petitions committee needs to be a standing committee. It needs to be able to go back and monitor the progress of petitions and reconsider them as part of that, very much like the Senate petitions committee does at the moment, because that way we can ensure that a petition doesn't get lost in the system. It's not considered and then disappears. The petitions committee can come back to us and say, okay, what's happening with this? What's the latest progress on that? So I think it's important that we get that right. I do have concerns about the increase in the numbers, and I think, you know, as the Councillor Hopkins has said, you know, I know it's easy to get petitions online. A lot of people still rely on other sites, and they don't realise that the council will only accept e-petitions through their own site. And I think that's going to have to be driven home to people if these petition system is going to work. But I do think there should be maybe provision for the chair of the petitions committee to have some discretion in terms of the number of petitions. For example, if you do have a petition about an issue in a local village in Gower where there's only 30 houses, then you're not going to reach the 1,000 signatures or whatever to get that. So there should be some discretion for the chair. And the other point I was going to make in regards to the amendment, that yes, the presiding officer decision should always be final, but of course, if a petitioner feels that their petition has been maladministered, they are able to go to the ombudsman as well. So that isn't the final arbiter. That if they feel that their petition has not been dealt properly, they can appeal to the ombudsman and say there's been maladministration. But let's hope that doesn't happen. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Holly.
Just come back in. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Black, for those comments. Yeah, I will clarify, and Councillor Hopkins and I have discussed this, I will clarify in the petition scheme the element of the chair of the petitions committee to be able to waive those figures, because obviously we're not going to be expecting 1,000 signatures if it only affects 20 people. And there's got to be that common sense in that. So I will make sure that's written into the scheme. And obviously within maladministration, that's not in the report because that's a legal right anyway.
Councillor Hopkins, your light is on. Okay. Councillor Holly.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Peter has said quite a bit of what I was going to say anyway, but during the Constitutional Working Group, it was agreed, I think, by everybody in that room that, yeah, a petitions committee would give us more flexibility and give us more time, really, to actually look at it, because it doesn't have to meet every 4 weeks. But I think the fear people have, and it is a fear, that if they don't reach a certain number, they'll never get heard. And I welcome the fact that it has to be put in writing, this flexibility within the system. If it's in there that there's flexibility, and not only the presiding member or the chairman of the chairman of the petition committee has got the flexibility to actually meet the petitioners and have them to come forward with their proposals, then I can see this being a system that will work. If it's not got that flexibility, then we're going to get the public's reaction saying, hang on, you're not listening, the petition system's not working. I think we need it to work, so we need that flexibility.
Jones.
Yeah, thank you, Presiding Member. Yeah, I totally support the principle of the petitions committee, because I think that really will work well. I think we need to look at that percentage again, because it just doesn't need to just work. It's got to be seen to be working, and that people's views are respected. And I think that is really, really important. But as I say, the petitions committee will have the opportunity to look probably in more depth at some of the issues, and I think that is can only be good.
Councillor Rice.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of petitions, they're a part of openness and transparency, and also about a way of engaging people in the community with the council. And I think they have a really important role. I agree with many of the things, especially Councillor Black said about petition committee and how it can be used. I do feel that because we're looking at the constitution itself today, we have to be a little bit careful about some of the decisions we make, because the constitution is almost a casting in stone. Whereas you can look at terms of reference and make differences to them, but the guiding principle would come from the Constitution. So, in my opinion, I think, yes, introduce a petitions committee, but also keep in the Constitution at a certain level, or under a certain discretion at least, that any petition could come to full council, because I think full council would then have that community engagement. But I would say we need to maybe look at a little bit more drafting on the Constitution and work out some more of the details in the terms of reference. Because what the council needs to do is to feel like it engages with people and make sure that people feel that they're listened to. It's not always going to be the case that they're going to agree with the council's decision, but at least they've got to feel that the process is fair.
Thank you. Councillor Evans. Mr. Evans.
It's okay. Yeah, all the comments are useful. I will be bringing a report back shortly to form. Well, you're agreeing to set up the petitions committee tonight if this goes through. I'll be looking to bring a report back with 7 cross-party members based on proportionality on it. The report I'll be bringing back will set out the terms of reference of that committee. And of course, I want to make the point abundantly clear. The petitions committee, where possible, will be open to the public. It will be a stream, so it's not hidden away. People, the Joe public will be able to see it and obviously partake in it. Petitions committees are used successfully by the Senate, by UK Parliament and by other bodies, and they work well, and they're smaller focused bodies, which I think is useful. But one point I think is important, this doesn't mean, by setting a petitions committee up, doesn't mean that a petition will never end up in front of Cabinet or in front of Council. If those petitions are deemed by the petitions committee to be of council-wide importance, then of course that committee might refer them to those other bodies. So please don't think this is closing them from council forever.
Mr. Hopkins, you're going to come back for a minute.
Could I just say the constitution of this council is not set in stone either. It's up to this council to look at that constitution. If we need to change it at any time, then we are gifted to do so at full council. That's exactly what we're trying to do, is betterment, because we've realised there is an opportunity to build on our experience, look and learn from our experience, particularly with the petition coming to council. It is not the right forum at this particular time. There are far better ways to hear that petition and to make people feel welcome of the outcomes. So I really endorse I hope council's decision today with that flexible approach on numbers. Particularly, it is important, but also to add, the local members as well will be involved in the process at that time with that commitment and that flexible approach.
Councillor Philip.
Just don't want to move past the point, Chairman. The point that Peter Black raised was about reassurance to the wider public that they will get the same consideration whether they are petitioning in small numbers or very large. And I was grateful for what Mr. Evans said in regards to the discretion that will be allowed. But in the consideration of what that discretion would involve, could it include, for example, the percentage of signatories of those people who are actually affected? As it might be 100% of the people who are affected have signed the petition. To give you an example, there was a planning application in my ward. It only affected one street of 19 houses. They didn't qualify rules, and I'm grateful for the chairman when that was made clear that he allowed an application to go to committee. And I think that would provide some, if that was written in and made public, in the way the document was written, I think that would provide reassurance to people that the consideration about petitions would be the same, whether it was 1,000 people signing it or 15 people signing it.
Just say that is the commitment that we will have that flexible approach on these things, because that's why I don't want to tie it down to say local issue, that leave the discretion, that leave that to the discretion of the chair, and hopefully if we do pick up problems, then we will change it. We'll change the process. So to me, I really don't want to get stuck into numbers at this particular time and just give that commitment. But I do believe this will not affect the petitions on planning. Planning petitions will still be heard by the planning committee.
With the Gower in particular, or any rural areas, and we've been plagued for years because they have to have a numbers game. And with so many villages throughout Gower, with half a dozen houses, people cannot get them. And this is the problem. And unless you allow certainty in planning, and I think it's been very unfair for many years, to be honest, people have been denied their rights. And I think this is what it should be. I think I'm sure the chairman of planning will take this on board as well. And when they come in from Gower, hopefully they'll get through to committee chairman.
I think we've been reassured on the numbers anyway. So, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I'd like to thank Mr Evans and Councillor Hopkins for bringing this report here today. I think it is easy to get wrapped up in figures, and as has been reassured that won't be the case. But I'm looking at it from a petitioner's perspective and from a member of the public's perspective. Surely it's better for them to come to a committee of 7 councillors as opposed to being forced to come to a chamber with 75 people. I think it's more intimate, it's more informal, it's more relaxed. Surely it's more relaxed for the people who are coming, members of the public, to speak to that committee. So it will be a better, improved process. And that is why I'm supporting it here today, Presiding Member.
Be so time committed as well either, would it? It wouldn't be so time committed either. So, okay. Have you got else different to add?
Yes, I have actually. Okay. Yeah. A lot has been said about the discretion for various different cases. The question I've got is, it looks like these are pretty arbitrary numbers that have been put in the table for tiering. The question that I have is, will we be monitoring for the uptake of petitions to see whether these numbers are realistic, so they could be modified in the future? Will there be an opportunity to do that? And secondly, if we're going to talk about discretion, why do we have the numbers on the table in the first place?
I got one more speaker. Should I bring that one in first, Dave, before you answer? Councillor Evans.
In the interests of openness and transparency, could the committee have a prohibition on whipped voting?
To be honest, I think the important thing is let's get the policy in front of us. Let's look at the policy. This is just agreeing the process. The policy will come and everything. To be honest, I'm of the opinion. Let's get that what do you call it, the detail, and then we will look at all the terms and references at that point.
That's been put forward and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour of the report, please? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. That's been moved. Okay, we now move on to councillors' questions. And the first question is from, let's see. And the first question is from councillors Peter May.
Thanking the cabinet member for the response on that. As I said, like all plans that we've seen with the REC over many decades and generations, they are pretty vague at this stage. We do see reports coming to cabinet I'd sort of asked the cabinet member for an assurance that there will be extensive public consultation on anything that goes forward, as it is a prime piece of land both in the ward and citywide.
Councillor Rice, should I get Councillor Rice?
Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Sorry, was that a question then?
Same thing first, to be honest. Say yes or no.
Every report goes through a process where it goes to, when it goes to cabinet, and each cabinet is open. We have councillor question time. It's nice to see you, Councillor May, and I haven't seen you coming along to the cabinet, but you could come along and ask questions at any time, like we have question time in council. So, you know, we cannot go out to consultation on every single item if that is impossible. But anything major, obviously, we have consultation on, and that this is the question's been asked here. He's got the answer to it. And when we have anything coming forward, that will be reported through the normal way.
Councillor Rice.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. A quick follow-up question for the cabinet member. Does the report that's coming through have any plans, including a multi-storey car park or any high-rise student accommodation or anything of that nature? And could you also give us a sort of a flavour of what partners he's planning to work with?
It's already public knowledge that we are working with Swansea University to look at an international sports park, where we're already working with them on the Wales National Pool. There's a new hockey pitch that has been put down down there, and that we are looking how best ways we can work together for our community, and the university working with us. There are ambitions from sports club to work with us, and we will have discussions with those sports clubs. There are already sports clubs within St Helens now, but there's nothing further than that until we get detailed work drawn up between ourselves and the university.
Thank you, Councillor James.
So the answer is there's no plans that you're referring to.
Thank you. The next question is from Councillor Lyndon Jones.
Great. Thank you, Presiding Member. Just to say thanks for the response, except that I'm quite surprised at the high cost per unit, you know, for the bungalows. I know we're getting grant funding and so on, but you know, if we could bring that cost under some sort of control, and if you look at similar houses in the private sector, what they actually go for, we could actually build a lot more. So I think even though we're getting grants, that's great, but I think that is a really high cost per unit.
Sorry.
I'm not sure where the question was, more an observation, but I'm happy to respond. That are you asking a question or?
The question was, why are we paying so much? Yes, there's grant funding, but the unit costs are so high. Can we bring those under control? We could actually get more bang for our buck.
Yeah, so if I can respond to Councillor Jones, and I completely understand the rationale. Sorry, Lyndon Jones, apologies, Mary, not Mary Jones, Lyndon Jones, to be very specific, as always. Yes, just to give a response to your question, and I understand the concerns around the potentially, as seen, inflated costs of the buildings. For one, we are bound, as all local authorities with social housing, that we have to build the design quality requirement and Welsh Housing Quality Standard, which private developers are not. So social housing is always going to be a better, higher, more costly standard than your average commercial developer. Just to be clear on that. There is another reason why we've gone for the technologies, and as you rightly point out, they are funded by grant funding. The solar power, the battery storage, the ground source heat pumps, the mechanical heat ventilation recovery units, they all come at a cost, but it's a cost which is necessary at the moment. If we're going to tackle climate change and build zero carbon properties for the benefit of our tenants, then we need to add in those technologies now. And the reason for doing that now is to prevent us having to go back at a later date and reinstall those retrospectively, which we will be asked by Welsh Government to decarbonise our council homes. So the reason we're doing it now is to stop us having to go back at a future date to do it anyway. I do accept that we still need to look at value engineering. We still need to look at how we can bring costs down, and we are using these schemes to do that. And the pilot that I mentioned in Leaders' Report earlier this evening is about exploring further energy saving and different methods of energy efficiency in homes to retrofit. So we will be looking at that data and the findings of that project very carefully. But we continue to try and look at value engineering, and we continue to look to reduce costs in our council homes. Of course, I want to build more and I want to make the money go further. But at the same time, we also need to understand that we do need to tackle climate change, and we do need to look at zero carbon housing. And as an authority, and as a Labour administration, we've looked at tackling fuel poverty for the benefit of our tenants. And that has been well received, particularly with the spiralling costs of energy that tenants are facing at the moment when they've got very little money in terms of food and rent and all the other pressures that they have. Some of these properties, they are not drawing from the grid at all and are paying next to nothing for their energy bills. So there is a good purpose, a moral purpose behind what we're doing as well. But I thank you for the question, and you're right to challenge. That's what opposition members do. I accept that challenge, but I'll continue to build quality council homes for the benefit of our tenants and the residents of Swansea.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Mary Jones.
Thank you. Can I just make the clarification before I ask my question? The reason I ask you to say the Christian name is if people are not watching and they're listening later, although there would be a difference between myself and Councillor Lyndon Jones, there may not be a difference between the other Joneses. And I think it's an important point if we're debating something. I'm not trying to be pedantic about it. I think it's a point that people need to remember there's 5 Joneses. So I only want to know, can you tell me please where the house council bungalows are in West Cross, what area? Because I know we also have given planning permission for, I think it's coastal, to build at the top. And also, how many were they? Okay.
Yeah, happy to clarify that, Councillor Mary Jones. Yes, so they're on the circle and have now been renamed, and that's off Cedar Crescent. So just to clarify the location of that, and there are 3 pairs of semi-detached bungalows at that location. They're all occupied now, and I can tell you that the residents who were in those homes are absolutely delighted with the energy efficiency of those homes and the quality of the build. And if I might take advantage of your question, I know you're not attacking me this evening, but just to take advantage of the question and point out that one pair of those bungalows was actually constructed solely by our apprentices. And so there are other values attached to this scheme as well in terms of training, development, and those apprentices are absolutely over the moon to have the opportunity to work on a live ground up site, and that will stay with them for the rest of their careers. So there is also social value and community value added to these schemes, not just monetary.
Amazing, thank you. Councillor Will Thomas. Sorry.
Thanks, Presiding Member, and thank the Cabinet Member for the very detailed response. And it's very good to hear that these homes have been delivered. Just one very brief question I have. When it comes to professional fees for these builds, such as surveys, architecture, things like that, is that included in these build costs, or do we sort of utilise the council services and incorporate them in where there would be a cost, but is that shown? Hopefully that question makes sense. Happy to get a written response if you don't know the answer. Thank you.
I'm happy to give a response this evening. This is whole build costs, and the surveys and the technical support and the professional support that you refer to has been delivered in-house And where we've needed to, we've also had subcontractors for specialisms like SUDS. And so that is the whole bill costs, which include those reports.
Councillor Lewis, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's just a follow-up because you mentioned that providing social housing now has to be to a specified standard, and I think we can all understand that. What I'm just curious about, where you have private housing development, you've got a certain percentage of the development, I'm quoting 20%, for example, which are to be affordable housing, of which then there is a smaller element that is actually social housing. And in my ward, I know some of these properties are being administered by coastal housing and family housing. I'm just wondering, these particular houses, I assume, will not meet the council standard of heating, etc., etc. They will be built to the standard of other houses in the development. Is that the case? I'm just curious about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald, for the question. And just to clarify, it's not the council standard, it's Welsh Government's standard, and that applies to all sites, and the percentages of social housing that you refer to will have to be built to those higher Welsh Government standards.
Councillor Sarah Keaton.
Yes, thank you, Presiding Officer. I just wanted reassurance, really, that we would continue with the training of builders in this standard, because we have to. The more builders we have trained in this way, it won't just be council houses that are being built in the end, it'll be other houses, it'll be spread out, and it will take the cost off the council in the end, because everyone will want Swansea standard houses. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keaton, for the question. And I can go a step further. Actually, our building services are working really closely with our local schools, local colleges and universities to ensure that the skills and the traineeships and apprenticeships that they provide are in line with the future needs and the future demands and jobs that we are seeing. For example, they are training them in the installation of photovoltaic panels on housing and also battery storage. So we are hoping to continue with this journey. We will continue the investment. We've got £35 million over the next 4 years invested in retrofitting solar panels and battery storage on our existing council homes. And we will continue to keep the high energy efficient standards that you've seen in your ward. Happy to reassure you on that.
Thank you. I got Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, just to go back, I was lucky enough to be invited to these new homes in West Cross. And if you stood back, I agree with what our Deputy Leader is saying. If you stood back and looked at the apprentices built bungalows and the tradesmen, you wouldn't see any difference. They built a wall to the rear. It's outstanding. Brilliant craftsman's work, and it goes to show that we have got good tradesmen teaching our apprentices. So I'd like to thank Councillor Andrea Lewis, because there's more than one Lewis in the for all our hard work, and the council officers team, obviously.
There was no question. Councillor Rebecca Fogarty, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, as ward member for West Cross, we are incredibly proud to have these new council houses in our ward. And we've had the privilege of also having a site visit to these houses. And we were particularly impressed, as has already been mentioned, by the houses that have been built exclusively by apprentices. So the investment in people's skills, in their careers for the future. The wall that Councillor Anderson has just mentioned, I believe, was built out of recycled materials. So really looking to stretch where possible, you know, the carbon reductions in the building of the properties, and then speaking to the new residents in these houses, just the absolute delight they have to be in warm, safe, secure, quiet houses.
I don't want to interrupt you.
I am getting to the question.
We need a question, exactly.
Does the cabinet member agree that that these houses represent an investment in both our people and our planet, and one that should be replicated across the city?
Thank you.
I could just say yes, but if I can just comment on, the wall. You're absolutely right. It was built from recycled materials which were recovered from the previous site on Hillview Crescent. Now that could have easily have gone to landfill, but the developers, in-house developers from building services, the project manager was absolutely adamant that he thought it was quality stone and that it needed to be reused. And we had some specialist skill of building walls with that stone and passed that skill on to 4 apprentices. So it's all about the succession planning and mentoring as well. So a really good opportunity, and I'm really pleased we did it. And it is a fantastic wall, I have to say.
Councillor Walton, just to remind you, on the question, okay?
Wouldn't the cabinet member agree that the approach that we have as Labour administration is paying more to save money in the long run? The expenditure on these houses probably means, although you can never be absolutely sure, but I reckon it probably means that they will last a lot longer than if we put up properties that had half the quality of these bungalows, which will degrade far, far quicker. So would the cabinet, seriously, the serious question is, would you not agree that surely this is money wisely spent, as long as we're still looking to make sure that we're not extravagant, that we keep to budgets and so on and so forth? I'd much rather us have this approach than the idea of, oh, let's chuck up a load, but not to worry about the actual standards.
Thank you, Councillor Walton. I absolutely do agree. And I'd go a step further as well and say when you build quality homes, you build a quality community. And actually it'll be a much more sustainable neighbourhood where people will want to stay, reside, get to know their neighbours, support their neighbours and live closely together and not move on. So properties like this and sites like this build out transients and build in sustainable communities. So thank you for the question.
And the last one is Terry. Councillor Hennigan, sorry.
Thank you. I don't think there's any substitute for the quality of building new homes. Could the cabinet member just remind people in this cabinet the amount of finance from the housing revenue account as well? So we're having the quality homes, but the housing revenue account also playing a major part in this new build.
Thank you, Councillor Hennigan. That detail is included in the report, separate to the amount of grant that was available. But you're absolutely right to point out this was not general funds from this council. These properties were funded from the housing revenue account, which came from our council tenants' rents being reinvested into reinvigorating our stock, which we absolutely need to do because that stock was depleted by stock transfer, housing right to buy, and we lost around 4,000 properties at that time. And at this moment in time, we've got over 8,500 people on our waiting list, and 6,500 of those are new to us on the waiting list, as opposed to the rest who are looking to transfer from a council property to another council property. We're in the middle of a housing crisis, and the more we can build and the faster and agilely we can build them, the better. But you're absolutely right. This is thanks in part to HRA investment.
I agree 100%.
Okay, the next question again is from Councillor Lyndon Jones, please.
Just only to add that a review was going to be undertaken. I really would like and look forward to seeing that review, because I think it's a mad situation where everybody from the tip of Gower right through to Mumbles and so on are taking the recycled wood to Llansamlet. If we are talking being serious about a climate emergency and looking to improve the environment, when you've got all these cars and vans driving all that distance, it's quite mad. So I would like that review to be undertaken as soon as possible.
Councillor Anderson?
Yeah, I can assure Councillor Lyndon Jones that he will see the review. But I must reiterate, it was told in the last time you asked the question, Councillor, that the review is not until 2024. Can I just remind you that different lumber companies use different oils or cures to cure their woods. And it's NRW that are telling us we cannot put all these bits of timber into the same place because they could have a counteraction. So if we had to do what you wanted, it would mean we'd have quite a few skips, but nowhere to put them, if you know what I mean. So we're trying to keep it centralized. But I will get back to you when we do the review with that NRW.
Councillor O'Brien?
Thank you, Presiding Member. Just on that point, Councillor Anderson, you know the cleansing team, which are doing a fantastic job, I think, throughout Swansea, and just to put that on record. But when I was out speaking to the team who are working hard, what I didn't realise is that they're actually having to go to Llansamlet to deposit if they cut and do cutbacks or anything like that. So I can appreciate if they're coming from the likes of Gower or Bishops and Mumbles, they sat in the traffic. I know I was sitting in the traffic here on Mumbles Road this evening. If the teams are having to do that multiple times a day, a lot of their time is spent in the car, and I think, or in the lorry. So I think they were sort of a little bit frustrated that they would rather sort of crack on with the job, so to speak. So I was just wondering if there would be provisions, perhaps, that the team could perhaps use Klein recycling instead of doing the long trips, booking into Llansamlet. If we could look at Klein for facilitating the more local wards, and of course it saves a lot of time and cut down on emissions. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor O'Brien. I will get an officer to give you a technical response on that, but I do understand where you're coming from. But I will get an officer to respond.
Okay, the next question comes from Councillor Chris Holly.
Thank you. Now then, as you know, Presiding Member, you are a person that likes accuracy and honesty and what have you. And I'm sure the leader, in his answer to this question, got it totally wrong. So I'm sure that he will come back. I don't want to spoil his holiday, but I'm sure he'll come back and correct it. In it, he makes comment about he was surprised, the previous leader and two previous council members, how they were unaware of the constitutional decisions. But let me point out a number of decisions that were made. Decisions that were made contrary to the comments that he made in the Evening Post, which were, this is how public procurement works in all major schemes, including new schools. If you were to adopt the approach that you only started projects if you absolutely knew the final cost, you would never start a project. Now that is wrong. It's wrong because I reopened Swansea Leisure Centre on a budget of 25 million, which I said publicly in the beginning. That also applied to the bus station, and that also applied to the bowls hall. Now, in this answer, you put down also this. In this particular case, I never mentioned a case. I never mentioned one case. If you read the question I put forward, will the leader cabinet explain to council why the true cost of the projects cannot be disclosed before the cabinet makes any decisions? Quite simple. We keep on being told this is a member-led authority, so the members decide how much a project's going to cost, and the officers work to that cost. You do not say, "Oh, go and do that," and then you know, carry on willy-nilly and we'll see what it'll be in the beginning, at the end. What I'm saying, Leader, and I'm sure you will correct it if it's wrong, the comments that you made in the Evening Post, surely we must now realise in the financial constraints that we are in, that we should be saying, if you want to do a particular project, that's how much we got and no more. So I'm sure you would like to clarify that position.
Thank you, Councillor Holly.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think I may have
Councillor
touched
Stewart.
a nerve with Councillor. Thank you, Chair. I think I may have touched a nerve there with Councillor Holly. I make firstly the point of principle here, which is, look, if you're sensible and prudent with money and with finances, and you're seeking to do a development, whether that be a bathroom or a kitchen in your own home or a major development in a city, you do not go out to the marketplace. What you do is you seek bids around a specification of what you'd like to achieve. Best, most competitive bids. That is the approach we take through public procurement. That is the approach I'm sure Councillor, when his administration were in charge, you have a specification, you go out to the market and you get bids back in. Now, what happens, especially in times where we are now, where we've got higher inflation because of the ludicrous economic decisions made by
Councillor Stewart, we keep losing you.
Leader, with respect, Leader, we're only getting a few words and then you're cutting out.
Councillor Stewart, can you take your camera off, please? And perhaps the signal will be better for us because we were breaking up when we get the response.
Hold on a second, Chair. That is better. Is that better now? Can you hear me, Chair? Yeah, can see nods there. Yeah, is that okay?
Sorry, everybody else is having difficulty, Councillor Stewart.
Sorry, Councillor Stewart, you know, try turning your video off and just have audio only. That might help.
How is that? Is that better?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was addressing the principle first of all, Chair, in that if you're undertaking a development, whether it be a personal one for your household, be it a bathroom, a kitchen or other, or it's a major development in the city centre, you would not advertise that budget in advance because you want to get the best and most competitive bids back in. And that is the way public procurement operates. We go out with the specification, the market responds to that, and then we evaluate the bids that have come back in and make an award. If we were to do it the other way around, we would no doubt get bids in that were there to exploit the entire budget that may be available for a project. In terms of the current economic situation, which is, as I said, made worse by some of the decisions made by UK government, where inflation now is much, much higher than it has been for decades. We are seeing inflation in both products and materials and in labour costs. And those inevitably then feed through to bids that we get back in as an authority on major projects. So the point that Councillor Holly made, as I thought it was that you would never start a project unless you decided the budget beforehand, and that if you couldn't deliver that project for that budget, you didn't do it. That is an approach that maybe he's taken in the past. I think, if I heard him correctly, say that he delivered the renovation of the leisure centre for 25 million. I'm not sure that the final costs of that were 25 million. I believe they were higher than that, but I'm sure Chief Executive or others can correct that in due course. But I'm pretty sure they were more than 25 million. What I would say, though, there is a point of principle here that all members have to adhere to in the Constitution. There were confidential information contained within major reports like the one on the hub, ones on Copper Bay, and other big projects that we are undertaking. That information is provided to councillors so that they are aware of the decisions being made by this authority, but they are kept on yellow papers in order to protect the council's commercial position, and that's to try and get the best deal that we possibly can for the taxpayer when we make contract awards. If members, of course, disclose confidential information or have conversations with members of the press where that information then is surfaced, that really is something that cuts across the Constitution and places the taxpayer, importantly, at risk here, as well as the council. It means potentially that we are open to higher bids coming in, and therefore we end up paying more. Whether or not then those councillors that do that should be subject to any further action is obviously a matter for the monitoring officer and for the ombudsman and others. But certainly, I think it's unwise for any member to disclose confidential information and leave the taxpayer of Swansea at risk and the authority at risk. I don't hold with Councillor Holly's view of the world, which is you only do something if you know the costs at the start. We know the disastrous period between 2004 2012, where this city fell way behind most other cities in the UK, where very few people were prepared to invest and where very little happened. This Labour administration has turned that around. We have £1 billion development programme. We have a huge record-breaking schools building programme. And we have a significant investment going into the economy of Swansea, creating jobs and creating opportunities. I would not want to see that put at risk by the sort of approach that Councillor Holly advocates. And I don't think the people of Swansea want the Lib Dems back in charge. I think they made that clear in 2022.
Did you mind if I come back?
30 minutes are up, folks. I'm not taking any more questions. You can respond.
Can I? It's very difficult to understand what Councillor Robert Stewart was saying, the leader was saying. But one thing I do know is that if someone has disclosed confidential information, then he's right to say what he has said. But, you know, yes, we have invested in Swansea, but since 2012, this council has borrowed £300 million. So you would expect, if we borrowed £300 million, to have some outcome from that. So, you know, it's all well and good for the leader to turn around and say, yeah, oh, we've done this, we've pumped this into the economy. That's fantastic. But there's going to be a cost. And at some stage, we are going to pick up that cost. The tipping point was 2020, 2030. It could well come down from that. So I don't want to go on about that. But the reality is, we must now begin to think that if we have a sum of money, we build to that sum of money. You on about your own home. If you went and wanted to replace your kitchen and you had a sum of money, you go around and have a look to see what you can get for that sum of money. You know, you don't actually turn around.
Okay,
Point of order, Chair. This is question time, not a debate.
Absolutely.
And
30 minutes are up anyway. So
but Councillor Holly's going on. He's not answering the question.
I did.
And you give him a right to reply. He's here to ask a question. He's had an answer from the leader. He may not like the answer he's had. It doesn't give him a right to reply. I'm just a point of order.
I'm calling the meeting to an end. Okay, Councillor Holly, I'm calling the meeting to an end.
Okay, thank you very much, Presiding Officer, for your leniency and what have you. But seeing as everybody else has had the chance to say a few words, you know, fair enough.
Okay. Okay.
But I will remember that.
No, Councillor Phillips, I've said the 30 minutes are up.
Says that the public have a right to know what cabinet members are spending public money on before the cabinet agree to vote on it. Put the chief executive, the section 151 officer on the monitoring officer, tell us whether cabinet members have actually spent money which have had no cabinet approval. That's the suggestion of this sentence. That's a slur. It's actually suggesting that illegal practice has happened in this council. And if Councillor Holly has got evidence of that, he should bring it forward. If he hasn't, he should withdraw it.
happy to answer that question. Not sure if the section 151 officer is also online. The reality is Cabinet would only make decisions when they've got the facts in front of them, including the cost of the scheme.
Okay, that's the end of the council meeting. Thank you all for your attendance and thank you for your cooperation.